Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 1 breakdown. There are a whole bunch of Easter eggs, WTF moments from the book, so we will break it all down. Everybody grab your Valyrian swords, and because it is Father's Day when they're posting the episode, I will say Happy Father's Day to all the bad dads across Westeros. You also might remember Game of Thrones posted their infamous Tyrion in Tywin episode on a Father's Day, and it's going to be real hard to top that kind of a Father's Day celebration. I will be doing weekly videos for all the episodes just like previous seasons of House of the Dragon, the original Game of Thrones series, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, so if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get them all. The title of the episode was Salt Sea, Fire and Blood, which is a reference to the Battle of the Gullet and Fire and Blood, the book that they adapted for this, The Dance of the Dragons, the history of the Targaryen family that George R. Martin wrote. The Battle of the Gullet is infamous for a number of reasons, mostly because of Jace and Vermax, what happened with the Blacks. It's the bloodiest sea battle in the history of Westeros, too. So press F to pay respects to baby Jace. Another strong boy has died and his dragon, so Rhaenyra only has baby Joffrey left and her 2 children with Daemon. Also, a lot of other random people died during that battle, too, but we don't care about them quite as much. It's mostly about Jace and Vermax. At the beginning of the episode, you probably noticed, first big thing, is there's a brand new intro song. It's a different version of the Game of Thrones theme that Ramin Djawadi re-recorded for Seasons 1 and Season 2. He reused the original theme as it was during the original Game of Thrones series for Season 1 and 2, but now he's changed it a little bit, and it sounds more like a march song because of the war the Dance of the Dragons has officially started. The show is now in the actual Dance of the Dragons, which was the whole reason why they adapted this period for the show. We finally reached what they've been promising us that they were going to do since Season 1. All the big battles, and eventually even more dragon-on-dragon battles, too. We got a little bit of that during the Battle of the Gullet, but it was a bit of friendly fire because of Sheepstealer. Technically, the wild dragons are not friendly with the domesticated dragons. They just treat them like any other threat. It's sort of like watching what happens when a wild cat gets thrown in with a bunch of domesticated cats. It gets really, really angry really, really fast. You also notice that they changed the tapestry intro too. They changed it during Season 2 from Season 1, so it's changed season to season quite a bit, but it's the same basic tapestry as Season 2. Now the threads start to look, though, when they start, if it's blood running onto the page, because so many dragons and so many people are dying during this period. Each new episode in Season 2, the tapestry would change, growing larger for the scenes from recent events. Now in Season 3, Episode 1, it also features more of a close-up on all the dragonseeds and dragons. They film it in a slightly different way, they tune it a little bit differently, but it's the same basic tapestry we saw at the end of Season 2. They also added the bit where instead of panning to the Iron Throne at the end, now it pans off to the billowing edges with the Targaryen sigil with the blood red around the black dragon as a metaphor for what's happening right now. So there are a couple minor changes to the intro, not dramatic changes. But they will probably continue changing the intro the way they changed it episode to episode in Season 2 with Season 3 episodes, just to reflect recent events, like the Battle of the Gullet now in Episode 2. The opening scene starts with a Sheepstealer earning his name, stealing a sheep in the Vale, getting himself a little bit of a snack, cooking it up. Rhaena had just found him at the end of Season 2. She approaches, and he doesn't immediately try to roast her, showing that he's more amenable to her, but he is still a wild dragon, so it's going to take a bit before she can actually claim him, and they actually form a bond. You notice she starts speaking to him in High Valyrian, like they speak to all the dragons. The Dragon Keeper Order that was created also raised the dragons to understand Valyrian. This is also part of ancient Valyrian customs because the Valyrians spoke High Valyrian, so the dragons ancestrally have always known High Valyrian. They can understand language, they're not very detailed understanding of what people are saying in High Valyrian. Once they form a bond with the writer, though, they just pick up on their emotions, and that's how they communicate. So they do kind of understand commands, but they understand commands the way that your cat understands commands. The dragons are kind of like cats. They'll kind of listen to you, but they'll also kind of do their own thing, which is what Sheepstealer does for most of this episode. Just kind of does his own thing and takes a couple of cues from Rhaena occasionally. Oh, you want me to burn stuff? Okay, I'll burn everything in sight, even the friendly stuff. I'll even try to eat your sister and her dragon too. We also get a much better look at his deformed mouth, his bottom jaw juts out, and he has this very pockmarked hide because he's been raised in the wild, he's been by himself his entire life. As she climbs on, attempting her first ride to finish claiming him, he takes off. If she stays on, if their ride is successful, they are basically bonded, which is kind of how things play out, even though she's not totally sure when they first land on the mountaintop. There are also a couple of funny moments there where she thinks that Sheep Stealer has left her and she's just stuck on the mountaintop forever. Like, how am I going to get down now? And then Sheep Stealer proves that he returns, just getting her a snack. Like, I just left for a second to go pick us up some takeout. I cooked you a sheep. Here, have some sheep. Sheep Stealer stealing her a sheep proves that they have bonded. Aemond grabs Maester Orwyle out of bed, prepares to kill him with Blackfire, Aegon the Conqueror's ancestral Valyrian sword, wanting to know where Aegon is because he had no idea that he stole out in the night with Larys Strong, and everybody else in the Red Keep is also learning too because it's only been a couple of days since the end of Season 2. We see them in the back of the animal cart that they were in at the end of Season 2. Aegon has been addicted to Milk of the Poppy because of the pain, so he's going through detox right now, about ready to pass out from the pain. And when he says raven droppings for a throne, that also feels like a slight wink at the three-eyed raven. There's also a couple references to him later when Alys Rivers tells the dragonseeds, oh, you need to get back to Dragonstone right now. Even though the three-eyed raven, the Bloodraven, has not been born yet at this point in history, he can actually see what's happening in the past and communicate with people in the past using the Weirwood network and visions, like the vision that Daemon saw of him, which was actually him in the future talking to him in the past. Absolutely cannot wait to see how weird things get at Harrenhal with Alys Rivers and Aemond later this season. Their cart winds up being hijacked by guards loyal to Rhaenyra and the Blacks who don't realize that it's Aegon or Larys Strong, indicating that they can pass if they swear fealty to her, which they almost do. Aegon even has a little chuckle at this, but he just cannot bring himself to bend the knee to Rhaenyra, even if it's only to save his life, even if he doesn't mean it. So a lot of people will probably ask, why didn't this guard here, who seems like a relatively mid-level person, doesn't know that it's Aegon himself? Like, wouldn't he recognize his own king? I think the way they justify this is they explain that he's probably never seen Aegon after he was burned, and he might not have ever seen Aegon in his entire life before, and they're not hanging their picture all over the place, so he might not have even seen a picture of Aegon. It's really only after Larys Strong reveals Aegon's Valyrian crown that he realizes, like, oh, wait, this actually might be real. You actually might be Aegon II. And this also confirms why Aemond is not wearing the crown later because Aegon took it. It's made of Valyrian steel. It belonged to Aegon the Conqueror. It is also worth a lot of money. But at least the way that Larys Strong talks them out of this situation, saves their lives, is convincing the man here, Rhaenyra's loyal subject here, that they can basically take them to Dragonstone to Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra will pay them handsomely, which is actually pretty correct. Like, Larys is actually correct in that Rhaenyra would want them because she wants to execute Aegon, because if Aegon is still alive, he can still rally and try to rebel against her in the future. So part of the idea is that Rhaenyra really needs Aegon to acknowledge her as the rightful queen in a public way in King's Landing where everybody is watching and hears him declare her the rightful queen and then kills him so that everybody recognizes her as the rightful queen. So this all had to happen in a particular way in order to secure Rhaenyra's rule, which obviously it does not happen. Like all per Game of Thrones, things always fall apart. Like try to make plans, they will always fall apart.
Aegon is bedridden.
Are you sure?
Rhaenyra then tells Jace about her meeting with Alysanne, little treasonous visit. He doesn't believe Alysanne was being truthful, thinks it's a trap, as do the rest of her Black Council. Like, what? She told you she's gonna do what? So at least right now, Rhaenyra believes that Aemond is not at King's Landing, Vhagar is not at King's Landing, and they're off trying to meet Criston Cole at Harrenhal, which they are not. They are still very much at King's Landing. And the Hightower troops with Ormund Hightower, Daeron, Alysanne's youngest child, and Tessarion, his dragon, are on their way to the Red Keep in King's Landing. And we also have the threat of the Triarchy fleet showing up too, threatening to decimate their fleet, Corlys's fleet. So part of the idea is that the deal that Alysanne and Rhaenyra made, like the plans that they were making, are falling apart rapidly at the very beginning of the episode. The only thing here that Jace is wrong about in this moment, like the Black Council is wrong, is that Alysanne was being truthful. She did want to help Rhaenyra take King's Landing, but she doesn't have control. Like Alysanne does not have control over the Greens in the way that you would want her to have. So the other idea is that Rhaenyra was going to be taking King's Landing, or thought that she'd be taking King's Landing, expecting to find Aegon bedridden there so that she could execute the rest of her plan by executing him in a very public way, which now she can't do because Aegon is no longer there, which Alysanne did not know when she was having the meeting with Rhaenyra. She then orders Baela to go to the Gullet to get ships from Corlys to get enough fighting men to take King's Landing, and that's how they learn about the Battle of the Gullet starting. She then writes to Daemon to come back to Dragonstone with Caraxes so that they can use as many dragons as possible to secure the Iron Throne with a show of force. Rhaenyra also puts a ticking clock on this too. They'll take the Iron Throne in 2 days. You also notice during this scene, she gets real excited, like she has a smile on her face for the first time in a good long while. But at the moment, the ground beneath her is slowly crumbling, and things go to hell by the end of the episode. Alysanne then returns to the Red Keep a couple days later. Took her a couple days to go to Dragonstone and turn around and come back, with the king asking for an audience, but them using it for the big reveal that it's Aemond, not Aegon. And I love the look on her face too, where she's trying to puzzle it out, like, how did he get out of bed? Like, isn't he supposed to be bedridden? And then it's not Aegon, it's Aemond. He catches her up on everything that happened the last couple of days. Aegon has fled, they don't know where he is, and the whole reason why she wants him found is because of her bargain with Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra was going to kill Aegon in exchange for allowing Helaena to live along with Jacaerys, her granddaughter, Alysanne's granddaughter, and let the three of them eventually leave King's Landing in peace. So without Aegon, Alysanne doesn't know how Rhaenyra is going to react. She might trap them in King's Landing. You also notice when Aemond is sitting on the throne, he's still calling himself king, like he's asserting his claim because he's like the next oldest on the Green side, so he would be their next choice to take the Iron Throne, at least the Green's next choice to take the Iron Throne. You also notice that he's wielding Blackfire, the ancestral blade of Aegon the Conqueror, which is passed down from king to king. If Aemond learns Alysonne's plans, her recent treason, treachery, it's all over. He won't leave the city, meaning Rhaenyra might not be able to take it. So Alysanne has to talk real fast in this episode, and she does a lot of really tricky maneuvering, pushing Aemond around like a real big chess piece, a real big dragon-sized chess piece. When she says she was in the Kingswood, that's why she was gone for a couple of days, that's the place that she visited during Season 2. We also went there in Season 1. That's where she went floating in that lake very mysteriously. She keeps trying to remind him that he's supposed to go to Harrenhal to meet Criston Cole's forces with Vhagar. Later in the episode, we'll get to this too. She also tries to play on his fears, learning some of his weaknesses from Helaena, who inadvertently tells her just because Helaena knows everything, sees everything through her visions.
He knows that if he has to face Rhaenyra's dragons, he'll die.
He also reminds her that they have Ormund Hightower, 15,000 of their men from Old Town coming with Daeron, Alysonne's youngest child, who they've been talking about in the show since Season 1, we finally see him this season, and Aemond's younger brother as well to boot, with his dragon Tessarion. Once he mentions Corlys in the Battle of the Gullet, we travel to Corlys in the Gullet. We see High Tide Castle. This is his ship. It used to be called the Sea Snake, which is what his nickname is. Now it's called the Queen Who Never Was in honor of Rhaenys. That was her nickname, and that's her bust on the bow of the ship in her armor. We jump to the battle at Lakeshore, closer to Harrenhal, and we see the Rivermen destroying the Lannister army. The lion cage is open and has escaped, has probably been killed already. Daemon and Caraxes are with them, having the time of his life, just cracking all the skulls, slicing everyone up with his Valyrian sword, Dark Sister. There are going to be a number of people wielding Valyrian swords this season. We get a little dark comedy, kind of a WTF funny moment when he suggests to Oscar Tully here that Caraxes start burning and eating the bodies. And on cue, Caraxes, even though he's not in earshot, immediately starts burning and eating some of the bodies. Like he just senses that Daemon is giving him the thumbs up to have a snack. Oscar Tully stands up to Daemon, which he had started to do during Season 2, much to his chagrin, like Daemon isn't super happy about it, saying that, no, we need to wait and bury all the Rivermen per our customs, because some of the Lannisters have escaped to the God's Eye, which is like another battle called the Battle at Red Fork. I don't know how much of these two different battles we're going to see, like they kind of passed over the Battle at Lakeshore a little bit, so I think they're kind of combining both of these things and speedrunning them a little bit. Also because of what happens right after this, Daemon sees the Winter Wolves arrive out of the trees, the Stark army led by Roderick Dustin, aka Roddy the Ruin. The reason why they're all older men is per Northern customs, older men were willing to sacrifice themselves in hard times so that younger members of their families would have more of a chance to live, more to eat, or in this case, just continue on and survive the family name. So all these older Stark men were happy to die for honor and duty. Ned Stark would be proud. Do your duty. You also notice that he has completed the task at hand and throws Jason Lannister's head at their feet. And that was like the whole reason why they were going to continue on to the rest of the battle to kill the Lannisters. When he says, "We've come to die for the Dragon Queen," that's a line from the books, and the way they meet them here, like coming out of the woods saying this, is also the way it happened in the books too. Then we quickly travel to Criston Cole's forces and see Gwaine Hightower horrified and demoralized, saying that the men have been reduced to raping, reaving their way across the countryside, doing the most unknightly, dishonorable things that you could imagine, and they really, really want you to start rooting even more against Criston Cole if you did not before. Like, he was a terrible person before, now he seems like he's getting even worse. Criston Cole has gotten even weirder and more disillusioned since season 2. He refuses to discipline his old men, like nothing matters to him anymore, like he's turned into a nihilist. He doesn't care about anything anymore. Put this man out to pasture, he is ready to die. Somebody just line him up. We also see the dragonseeds hanging out near the God's Eye in Harrenhal, Ulf White with Silverwing, Adam of Hull with Sea Smoke, and Hugh Hammer with Vermithor, waiting to ambush Aemond, who they're expecting to arrive on Vhagar, thinking that the three of them and their dragons will be enough to overpower Vhagar. And the way they're playing it, I think they would have been enough. We get a little bit more lore here seeping out from all their conversations too. So Ulf White talks about his mother. His mother was a small folk. His father, they imply, or he thinks, was Viserys and Daemon's father, Balon the Brave. He's upset about how terrible his life has been. He sold his body to a red priest, letting him abuse him, who told him that he had king's blood, so knew that he was a dragon seed. When he calls him red, he's talking about being a priest of R'hllor, the red god. He then asks Hugh Hammer who his Targaryen parent was. They implied during season 2 that it was Sarah Targaryen, one of Jacaerys' younger daughters, who he disinherited because she was so horny on Maine and slept around so much.
Where'd you get your dragon's blood?
They have another funny and kind of ominous moment, like they start to show you some of the cracks in Ulf White here, like he starts to show his true colors when he thinks that he's going to get a castle because Rhaenyra said that they would knight them, and they all have a chuckle saying, no, dude, you do not get a castle if you're a knight. You need to be a lord in order to get a castle, which implies that that's going to be his price. Name me a lord, maybe he will do whatever you want him to do. Could potentially be very bad news for Rhaenyra. Also really comes off like he is extremely entitled and feels like he is owed a lot because he has a dragon now. Back at the Red Keep, Alysanne writes a secret letter to Ormund Hightower forging Aemond's signature about Daeron and Targaryen, trying to prevent them from coming to the Red Keep so that Rhaenyra will have enough time to take the Iron Throne and there won't be any Hightower army there to stop her from doing it. She's also mad at Helaena, who seems quite chill about everything, because Helaena has already seen everything that's going to happen in her vision, so she's not surprised by any of this at all. She also knows Aegon will return too, which is why she's confused when Alysanne calls Aemond the king. Like, the king? What? Why are you calling Aemond the king? Aegon is still out there. He's going to be back real soon. Alysanne also lies about being afraid for Criston Cole and the Force's lives, but Helaena basically gives her the information she needs that Aemond is deathly afraid of the other dragons, and he hasn't been afraid since he claimed Vhagar, but now he knows fear because he believes the dragons will kill him. Even though Alysanne manipulates Aemond later with this information, it also feels like for a second she remembers that she's Aemond's mother. She's like one of the worst mothers on House of the Dragon. All the actors were asked about this, like, who would you want to have as your mother? And none of them wanted Alysanne. Like, even Olivia Cooke said that her character, Alysanne, was a terrible mother. Corlys then talks to Alan of Hull after getting the letter from Rhaenyra about her plans to take King's Landing, like, oh, she needs some ships, we need to send her some troops so that she can actually take the Iron Throne. Really happy. He mentions booze that he saved from Ib. That's the largest island in the nation of Ibn, located in the Shivering Sea. It's just a reference to his many 9 voyages. They're currently still working on an animated Sea Snakes 9 Voyages TV show. Maybe we'll see that at some point. Dragon bones have also been found on that island, so dragons were supposed to have lived there at some point in ancient history, which is why the booze is called dragon water. Also, giants were supposed to have lived there for a while too. Corlys has also been trying to butter Alan up because he wants to name him his heir, because he's basically lost all the other people close to him, and now he just has his 2 bastards. Like, one of you has to take High Tide, which he sees burn during this episode as it's sacked. So, much to his horror, things are getting real bad for Corlys right now too. When Alan says Aemond seems like he'd rather burn it all in King's Landing than abandon the Iron Throne, that's another burn them all reference. Can't talk about Targaryens in the Iron Throne without mentioning burn them all. Then they hear the alarm that the Triarchy fleet has been spotted and the Battle of the Gullet is about to start. It is about to go down. He then sends a raven to Dragonstone to send support in the form of the dragons, which is eventually like the 3-eyed raven from the future, knowing what happened in the past, using the Weirwood network and Weirwood visions to tell Alys Rivers to tell the dragonseeds to head back to King's Landing, hoping that they'll be able to help with the Battle of the Gullet, but they seem like they don't arrive in time, even though in the books they were there for the Battle of the Gullet. So there are some changes that they make to the books with the way the Battle of the Gullet goes down. But part of the idea when Alys Rivers tells them to go back to Dragonstone with their dragons is that they'll be available for Rhaenyra to take to King's Landing when they sack King's Landing. We see Tywin Lannister and Lohar's ship. They argue about battle strategy. We eventually find that Lohar doesn't care about the Greens at all and only signed a bargain to help them so that she'd have an opportunity to kill Corlys in revenge for all the Triarchy people that he has killed over the past 20 years. We also find out as part of this, she plans to send part of her very sizable fleet to High Tide to sack the castle in the city. She's got plenty of ships and men to spare for this.
To sack High Tide.
Lord Corlys's castle.
Then we finally meet Ormund Hightower for the first time, Daeron, who we've been talking about since season 1, and this is Bold John Roxton. You probably recognize both of them from other TV series, very famous actors. Both Ormund and John Roxton also have their own Valyrian swords, like a lot of the other characters. Ormund Hightower wields Vigilance, the ancestral blade of House Hightower, and John Roxton wields Orphan Maker. He is going to wreck this season. You start to get some weird vibes from Ormund here too. He's going to be a force of chaos this season. The smelling salts he's using might be because the person who gave him the message either smelled badly or they might just be him getting a little bit high. What is this going to make him do later this season? Like, will he spiral out later this season because of some weird side problems that he has that we're just seeing now? We also find out that Alysanne has basically forged Aemond's signature, and Alysanne has tricked him into keeping the Hightower army busy for 3 days so that Rhaenyra has time to take King's Landing. Also, Alysanne probably wants to keep Daeron as far away from the fighting as possible too. But it seems like her gambit has worked. Even if Ormund doesn't recognize her own handwriting, either she's like really good at forging people's signatures, or he just doesn't know what Aemond's handwriting looks like. He's Alysonne's cousin though, so I wouldn't be surprised if he just recognized her handwriting and is like, you know what, whatever, who cares? And it really seems like he doesn't care who's king, like he doesn't care that Aegon might be dead, like, oh, Aemond is king now, you know, whatever, who cares? Alysanne then tries to gaslight Aemond using all the mommy energy she can, like the mommy vibes, to try and convince him to leave for Harrenhal, revealing a little bit of the truth, but not the entire truth. She tries to apologize for everything that she's done. You always should have been king. You're my best little boy. You're the best boy that I had. You should have been born first. You always should have been king. All the very manipulative things that she thinks that Aemond wants to hear because she's trying to get him to leave as fast as possible. She's not totally wrong though, because the dragonseeds are on their way back to Dragonstone, and Rhaenyra is going to bring everybody and all their dragons to the Red Keep, meaning that they would have been able to kill Aemond even with them, even if Aemond had still been around. So even though she is manipulating his fears, Aemond's fears of dying, she does want him to live. And she is being truthful when she says, you know what, I could meet you at Harrenhal, which she's probably talking about meeting him with Helaena and Jacaerys, expecting that her deal with Rhaenyra is actually going to go off without a hitch. Originally, she probably planned to just live out the rest of her days with Helaena and Jacaerys in Harrenhal. Just imagine her hanging out with Alys Rivers and the stuff that they would get up to. Then we have that very weird WTF moment of Aemond kissing her because he's so broken as a person. So a lot of people are like, what's going on here? Are we doing the whole Targaryen twincest thing? Because they do like to keep it in the family, but Alysanne always hated that about the Targaryens. So the way the actor who plays Aemond talked about this kiss is that he said it's because Aemond has no idea what love is like he's not felt love his entire life, so he doesn't really know how to reciprocate it or show it, so he's trying to show Alysanne that he cares about her as a mother, and Alysanne is trying to understand that yes, he cares about me as a son, I care about him as my son, so that's really what's going on here, and it's just super messed up because Aemond doesn't really know how to express that in the proper way. If it wasn't clear, it's not because he lusts after his mother, even though Daemon, ironically, had a similar moment like this during Season 2 with one of his Weirwood visions where he was incidentally getting it on with his own mom. We will probably have a lot of moments with Aemond this season at Harrenhal that are parallels for things that happened to Daemon at Harrenhal during Season 2. Very, very trippy, weird, Weirwood, messed up WTF things. All the dragonseeds grow restless. They're near the God's Eye, like I said, near Harrenhal. Ulf White is scared silly by a green man that just shows up out of nowhere because they're near the God's Eye. We saw a green man during Season 2, but now it's closer to daylight when it's happening. They're a secret order dedicated to maintaining the Weirwoods on the God's Eye. They're like a very sacred order, and they'll kill most people that come too close to the God's Eye that they don't want there. I think the reason why the Green Man shows up so close here is probably just because so many of the dragons are here in Dragonseeds and because of what's happening with Alys Rivers, and they're probably just doing the bidding of the Three-Eyed Raven. I already explained why Alys Rivers tells them to go back to Dragonstone, because they're going to sack King's Landing very soon, and this is like the will of the Three-Eyed Raven, but I also kind of wonder if she's setting things up for Aemond at Harrenhal too, and it's all part of a grand plan that the Three-Eyed Raven is trying to finger puppet from the future, pulling everybody's strings through the Weirwood network from the distant future. Baela then returns to tell them at Dragonstone about the Battle of the Gullet. Rhaenyra's first move is to take Syrax herself to the battle. Jace then locks her in her room using the Queen's Guard, convincing them to do it so that he, Jace, and Baela can go instead, wanting to be like the gun-ho 16-year-old kid who makes the very, very questionable call that he is ready when he is definitely not ready. That was like a bit of a funny, awkward moment where he tells Baela, oh, we're totally ready for this, and you can clearly see on her face her kind of shaking her head like, no, we are definitely not ready for this. So they want to show you like the progression of events that lead to Jace's death. So like he's partially responsible for his own death, but not completely responsible, because Sheepstealer shows up and causes a bunch of chaos, sharing a lot of the blame. But also Jace himself didn't seem like he was doing very well during the battle either, and might have died even if Sheepstealer had not shown up. The entire Battle of the Gullet was a giant debacle, so like a bunch of people making a bunch of very questionable decisions and things going completely off the rails. So like there are a lot of people, a lot of blame that you could spread around for Jace's death. Rhaenyra then realizes what Jace has done, and he is going to his death and is pissed off. Like, how dare he? So she is going to spiral out again when she finds out what has happened to him in episode 2 after word gets back. Another one of her precious baby boys is dead. Do not worry though, we still have baby Joffrey. He's not really a baby anymore, but we also have her 2 children with Daemon, so she still has 3 living children at the moment. We get a little bit of a time jump, and we're in the middle of the Battle of the Gullet. It's total chaos, ships burning left and right. You can really see that they put a lot of the budget on screen here. Like you can see that they spent a lot of money and a lot of time on this. It looks great. Eventually, Corlys tries to trap Lohar in the Dragon's Teeth formation, this little passage near Dragonstone. They actually said the inspiration for this was actually Star Trek Wrath of Khan, with the ships chasing each other through the nebula. Imagine Star Trek inspiring Game of Thrones' House of the Dragon. Our first dragons arrive at the battle with Jace and Baela on Vermax and Moondancer, who start burning Triarchy ships left and right. Even though they're smaller dragons, that still gives them a huge advantage. But Lohar reveals that she and her people know how to operate scorpions and crossbows, so they're trained to fight dragons, so it's not as big an advantage as you would normally expect. They literally land a crossbow on Jace and Vermax instantly. Like, Jace doesn't last that long, more than like a couple seconds before there's a crossbow on him. So they really want to show you that they are not prepared for this battle, like they are not used to fighting with dragons in battles. Really love the moment of Rhaena arriving on Dragonstone with Sheepstealer. Like, she is so happy to reach Dragonstone. We're finally home, but then Sheepstealer actually senses the Battle of the Gullet first before Rhaena sees it, and instantly starts turning towards it, and she's like, oh hell yeah, let's go help out during the battle. And it does not go the way you think that it is going to go. It is absolute chaos. She tells him to burn, like Jacaerys, burn everything, and he's like, oh hell yeah, I'll burn everything, and literally, he starts burning everything in sight, even the friendlies, even Corlys's, the black ships. Sheepstealer even takes a swing at her sister Baela and Moondancer, like just tries to start eating everything in sight, because wild dragons, not friends of the domesticated dragons. Lohar eventually escapes the Dragon's Teeth by sacrificing a bunch of her own men to lighten the weight on her ship, and they ram Corlys' ship, and it's a knockdown drag-out fight with them ending up in the drink together. Corlys lands in the drink, and then it actually winds up being Alan to finally kill her in revenge. Do not worry though, Corlys might be down, but he is not dead.
The sea snake is gonna coil himself around Lohar. Pretty as she is, she's going down.
Alan of Hull also had to take over command of their fleet when Corlys saw the destruction, the sacking of High Tide, and it just leaves him so shocked. So they're already kind of showing you that Alan Hull has been stepping up. But while the battle continues, and it seems like they have the advantage, Sheepstealer seems like he's starting to cause more problems than he was solving, and starts a big chase with Jace and Baela and Moondancer and Vermax. So part of the idea they want to show is that Jace was hit by the crossbow, Vermax was hit by the crossbow and taken down because they were so worried about what's happening with Sheepstealer. Vermax winds up being pulled under by the crossbow bolt, so R.I.P. Vermax, you were a good boy, and Jace, who was hooked into his dragon saddle, gets pulled under a little bit too, and is distracted enough so that the Triarch are able to get him with a bunch of crossbows, which is how he died in the books. Like, this is all basically close to the books for this part, but for the most part, the actual makeup of the people who were at the battle was quite a bit different. So Rhaena did not ride Sheepstealer in the battle, but Sheepstealer was there with Nettles, and the dragonseeds were also there with their dragons in the the books too. So it was actually a bit bigger in terms of actual dragons that were at the battle. I'm going to go ahead and say they pulled back on the number of dragons there from the books just for budgetary reasons, like they were already spending tens and tens of millions of dollars on this couple of minutes worth of footage. So RIP to Jace, everybody press F to pay respects, press F to pay respects to Vermax too, and now Rhaenyra only has one of her strong boys left, Joffrey, and her 2 children with Daemon, and we leave the battle with Sheepstealer flying over the carnage, with presumably Rhaenyra finding out what's happened at the beginning of episode 2. Technically, the Blacks have won the Battle of the Gullet, but just barely, and it was a very Pyrrhic victory, like most of both sides wound up dying. The reason why the episode doesn't really feel like a traditional HBO, House of the Dragon, or Game of Thrones episode 1 is because originally episode 1 and episode 2 this season were meant to be episodes 9 and 10 during season 2, but there was the infamous fallout where Ryan Condal, the writers, the people who actually make the show, HBO themselves, were ordered by their bosses at WB, David Zaslav, to cut 2 of the episodes. HBO didn't want to do it, so they basically had written all of season 2 to have 10 episodes and to wrap up things in episodes 9 and 10. So a lot of the complaints that people had about the way season 2 went down probably would not have been the same had they been able to release these episodes when they wanted to. So the funny thing is that season 3, episode 3 will probably feel more like an episode 1 for season 3 because it was written with the season 3 episodes. So HBO, Ryan Condal, the House of the Dragon writers all want you to feel like they are very sorry that they withheld these first 2 episodes. The real tea as to why David Zaslav made them cut those 2 episodes and we're not getting 10 episodes per season of House of the Dragon now is because of the whole Paramount buyout. The idea is that David Zaslav was preparing all of Warner Brothers' collective networks, which included HBO, for a buyout. They were planning on Netflix buying them. Paramount swooped in and bought them. So the idea is that he was trying to cut costs across the entire company, not just at like one particular studio. HBO was just basically ordered to do the same, like all the other studios had to do. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below, and if you think you spotted any Easter eggs or references in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. I'm in the middle of working on my episode 2 trailer video that'll post next. My full episode 2 video will post next Sunday night after they release it, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. Everybody click here for that video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it in a little while, and click here for all my other House of the Dragon episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.